Welcome to Deeply Well, a soft place to land on your journey. A podcast for those that are curious, creative, and ready to expand in higher consciousness and self-care. This is where we heal. This is where we transcend. Welcome back. I'm Devi Brown. This is Deeply Well. And on today's episode, we are going to dive into all things nourishing your spirit during the holidays. I'm going to offer you some tips to help you regulate your emotions, find a little bit more ease, and we're going to dive into a couple practices like breath work to calm the nervous system, how to really reset your home environment, make it feel more comforting, and how to reflect on the best ways to care for yourself as we get ready to dive into this new calendar year. So it's going to be pretty yummy. You might want to get a journal to note down a few things that you want to put in practice, especially before the holidays kick in or over this next week. But first things first, let's settle into the space. I'm so happy to be here. I have been traveling like crazy, and usually this time of year is when I like to be a little bear and just hibernate, like fill myself with food and get in a blankie and stay there for 2 months. But I've actually been having so many beautiful special opportunities that have required me to be in the world and to get around and all the things, which is always, it's this time of year, and I don't know how many others relate to this, but it's both magical and incredibly stressful. It's that liminal space, that time between time that honestly kind of really turns me on as a person and as a soul. Like I love dancing between these two worlds, 2024, 2025. Like I always feel the most inspired, I think, and open this time of year. But then you also have the other experiences, right? Like you are trying to close out and finalize work. Depending on what you do, you're trying to close the books for the new year before first quarter starts and wrap up with clients. You're getting gifts out. You are preparing things for your family, for yourself. If you have children, that's a whole nother thing because we have the winter performance coming and we have, all of the parties and the play dates and Santa and Elf on the Shelf and Jesus help us all. It is so much. And I'm kind of listing my big laundry list as an invitation for us all to just take a breath. It's chaos. I expect nothing different. I always expect that this time of year, I'm going to have a little bit more charge, maybe sometimes a little bit more sadness. But overall, it typically is not a relaxing time. It's a very activating and reflective and urgent time, it feels like to me very often. So I'm hoping that a lot of the practices that we go over today will feel useful and special and necessary for you. But also I'm really enjoying kind of finding some of my new normal. I'm gearing up to release some things into this world in 2025 that I'm excited about, that I've been working on for a few years. And I think I'm building my endurance for what's to come. So yeah, it's been great. I did some special things that I'd love to do a few shout outs on because, oh my God, I'm just so inspired by the women and the men of the world right now. Just so many people I'm encountering are birthing some of their great works. And it's just a really special energy to behold. And I always find it to be such a pleasure when I'm around it. I've had this really kind of otherworldly, special opportunity, I think, across my life to be able to witness people that have important things for humanity or really have a calling on their life from God and being able to see it before, as it's unfolding, and after. And it's something that feels really special about my life, this kind of observational understanding that I get. And so lately, I've been working with a lot of younger leaders, especially, and it just feels so special to see them at the beginning of their journey of being visionaries and being leaders and having the opportunity now to watch their myth and their path unfold for them. So I did this really special event with this incredible group called Leading Women Defined, which was created by the indomitable Deborah Lee, living legend, living icon, just such a special woman who birthed a lot in this world, but who has always supported women in pretty far-reaching, powerful, and profound ways. And she has this beautiful community called Leading Women Defined, and she's really kind of turned her gaze with her amazing team. Shout out to Gabrielle, shout out to Mai. It is like they are doing the work. They have this incredible cohort called Rising Leaders Summit, where they're working with a lot of the young Black women around the country that are doing really powerful things and that are just in sync to really have a lifetime of beautiful work that they're going to unfold. So I had a chance to pop in with this gorgeous group. I had landed at like midnight the night before after recovering from an injury that I talked about on my Instagram while I was in Mexico. And I was there bright and early, 7 a.m., teaching self-care practices, teaching some integrity and leadership practices, leading meditation and breath work. And it was just really sweet to spend time with this special community. And I just can't wait to watch how the world will change because they all exist. That was beautiful. And I just, always inspired by Miss Lee and her team and the ripple effect that really goes out into the world from their work. I also just got back from Miami at the point of recording this episode. I was out at Art Basel doing, hosting and moderating this really spectacular event called the Wellness Oasis, which was presented by Chase. And it was deep. Over the course of 2 days, I led some really special talks with just brilliant minds. I have to shout out my teacher, my beloved teacher, Dr. Deepak Chopra. He had an exceptional talk and meditation. Dan Buettner from the Blue Zones, which was really fascinating. One of his biggest recommendations was eat a lot more beans, and that will help you stay in good health and stay alive longer. He's found that in his many, many decades of research around the world studying centenarians and centenarian communities. We had some special artists. I got to meet Goldie Hawn, which was incredible. What was that movie that I used to love? Death Becomes Her. I used to watch that constantly when I was a kid during the summer. She is so special, and she has been doing the work of the people and the work of children for decades. Joe Jonas, we had a really powerful conversation about mental health and, what it is to be on the journey and to set boundaries and to make some life changes. Jillian Turecki, whose new book is coming out. She is just exceptional sage relationship advice. My dear friend Young Pueblo, Diego, who also has a new book coming out. We had a beautiful conversation. So many people. And also I cannot go without mentioning the incredible conversation that I had with Big Sean and Gary Vee. Wow. That conversation was so far-reaching and expanded. Like, we tapped into creativity, into parenthood, into, soul growth. And there were just so many powerful things that really, really impacted me that I'm taking into this new year from that conversation with those two really, really special, great men who do phenomenal work in the world. Can't wait to dive more into all of those conversations, into all of those things. So that was amazing. And those are the kind of conversations that I think I really live for. So I can't wait to share more of that with you. I'll have some video of that and some audio of that to share very, very soon, and pics on the gram. And then I am really, sinking into this beautiful holiday. I have been thinking so much about my life lately. One of the things that happened for me in the last couple of weeks was that I got the galley from my book back, which I can't show you the cover yet, but this is the back of it. It's like in my hand, my actual book. Oh my God. I've been crying every night. I've written a book before, but it was a completely different kind of book, Crystal Bliss. It was really about the beauty of crystals and the beauty of creating small rituals in your life. My new book, which I'll be sharing the cover in a couple weeks and announcing the pre-order, is called Living in Wisdom. And this is really kind of the deeper parts of the journey. It's a book that represents a lot of profound grief in my life and miraculous joy in all of the steps in between to kind of survive either end of that polarity. And it's a lot of storytelling. It's a lot of things I've observed and learned and studied and mastered. And the idea of giving it to the world, I spent 2 years on it, is really exciting because I know God called me to do it. And my deepest desire is that it is useful and meaningful for the people that it reaches. But it's also terrifying because you're sharing. I chose in this book to share a lot of incredibly personal things about my life. And I feel like the last couple of weeks, really the last week since I got my galley, I have been sleeping with it and I've been holding it. I have read my own book at least 6 times in the last 2 weeks. And I feel that I am making peace with all of it before it goes into the world. So that's been emotional for me. It's been beautiful for me. I'm ready for it. But I'm also just really like deeply present with all of it. I've said this to my friends. I don't know if I've said this on this show, but I always sometimes I think of creation in terms of like a rapper's first album, like a classic first rap album. Because everything about that artist's life, and usually rappers, depending on the audience they're cultivating, are very introspective, right? Like they have been studying themselves, they've been studying their lives, their dynamic for this moment. And it all comes out like their entire life up until that album is on the first album. And then it creates so much space for so many new layers of inspiration or things that could potentially happen. And that's how I feel about this book. I feel like it is kind of the depth of my psyche and my experience up until this exact moment of me at this age. And now that it's complete, I've created a lot of space inside of me for new thoughts and new reflections and new things. And it really helped me lay a lot to rest. So, good God, that's that. So I have a lot more to say. Y'all are going to hear me talk about my book nonstop for the next year. So I will leave that there. But that's really what's happening with me and some of the things that I'm thinking about. I found that I've really needed to kind of expand my meditation practice quite a bit this holiday season. There just seems to be a lot of energy present. There's a lot of astrological transits that are present for us. And I have been leaning into breath work, especially doing those 2 events that I did while I was in Miami. I was on stage both days for 8 hours a day. I facilitated like probably 30 conversations. And when I got finished, I noticed how deeply I just needed to kind of like throw some sweats on, wipe my face off, and just like get under the covers in the bed in my hotel. And I just really honored that. Or I walked out to the beach and like grounded my feet and put my hands and feet in the water, rubbed some water on me, took really deep breaths. And it was interesting because normally I have a certain amount of breaths that I take that typically gets me very regulated like that, right? Typically I can have a couple sequences and I'm like back. And I was really in deep observation of my body. And I want to invite everyone to consider doing this for any practices that you engage in this holiday season. I was in deep observation of my body, of when it really needs more, and taking the time to give it that more. So what was happening for me with kind of like the elevated stress and being around a lot of people and a lot of energy in this time of year and being in another state and traveling was I was having to like really set aside time, like an hour, to just calm down and come down from being around so many people. Our audience was right around 400, and then we had about 30 different speakers. And so, when you are someone that is kind of facilitating all of it or holding the space for all of it, it is an immense amount of energy, a lot, especially if you do it well. And so I was needing really an hour to just calm down and feel like me again. And it's not necessarily anything anyone else noticed that I needed, right? But I wasn't like frazzled outwardly, but inside I was like, ooh. So getting near the water, grounding my feet, putting my hand on my own heart, doing 30 minutes of breath work with my eyes closed. And even when I wanted to spend time doing other things, just sinking into that was so well worth it. And I think that's the part of like when we have our practices that I think is really special and important is that some seasons it's going to grow, it's going to shrink, it's going to change form. And it's never about anything being right or wrong, right? Even if you're able to get through like, you only need to take a breath, right? And then you're fine. It doesn't mean you're necessarily doing like so much better. It's just like that is how your body needed to expand and release in that moment and taking away the judgment of that and the pressure. So if you find yourself this holiday season just way too overly stimulated or feeling really reactive, nothing is wrong. And it doesn't mean you didn't do your work, right? Unless something is wrong. I want to actually go back on what I just said. Something may be wrong, and if it is wrong, I want you to meet your needs. But if you have searched yourself and you've noticed that there is not something present that's really harmful or scary for you, it's just your body being itself. And so greet it with gentleness, greet it with opportunity, greet it with presence, greet it with love and kindness and compassion. And just meet the need. And it doesn't have to mean anything about you. You're not less healed. You did not heal that thing, say with your family or your lover or your friend or your kids, because this year you're reactive. It's, hey, we had a hard year. A lot happened this year. Like truly a lot happened. There were wars this year. There was an election this year. There were tragedies this year. And that's just in the world. That's not even to mention what was happening in your own heart and in your own life. So whatever is there, be with it. Be with it. Tend to it. Sit with it. And give yourself what you need. And that is more than enough. We'll dive into more of that now. So I want to invite you to take out your journal or a notes app, somewhere where you can kind of write down some thoughts that may be coming up for you. And we're going to move through some practices. Throughout us kind of talking about things, there are going to be ways that I encourage you to pause, to reflect, to write. So give yourself permission as we're kind of opening to this to do whatever it is that you need. And let's just take a little breath together. I'm going to have some questions. We're going to get into a little bit of prompting, and then I have some tips of things to kind of climb through. So if it's safe for you, join me in taking a deep breath here. Deep inhale through the nose. Slow release through the mouth. Let's do that a few more times together here. Deep inhale through the mouth. And let's do one last one together. Deep inhale. And oh, that feels so good. Woo! That felt really good. All right. Let's settle in. Connect to any breath that feels natural and nourishing for your body, but try to stay present with it. I want you to really make sure that your jaw is unclenched, that you're letting enough air in and out to be gently flowing. I want to start by asking a couple questions to really get clear on how you want to approach this bustling, expansive season that we're in that means many things to many people. So as you step into this holiday season, I want you to take stock. What emotions or sensations arise in your body when you think about the days ahead? Sit with that for a second here. See what comes up first. Trust it. What emotions and sensations arise in your body when you think about the days ahead? We're just gathering information, no solutions yet. If you had a chance to describe your holiday experiences in one word, what would it be and why? If you had to describe your holiday experience in one word, what would it be and why? I want you to take a second here and think back to past celebrations, past times in your life during the holidays. Maybe it's something historical, or maybe it's something a little more recent. But which moments stand out as comforting moments in your holiday experience? What is standing out as comforting within your holiday experience? Maybe it was like that one Christmas that like your family just killed it, like got it so right, that gift or the dinner, or you did that for your family. Just notice. Now, which moments stand out as feeling challenging? Which were the years that felt challenging? And again, we're just gathering information. We're just kind of noticing. This lets us know sometimes where our truth is, where our resistance is. And it lets us know that when we are triggered in the moment, what is historic and what is in the present. And then we kind of get to distinguish for ourselves how we want to be with that energy, how we want to move with it, how we want to transform it. What made the difference? What made the difference in either of those experiences? What were the differences that made one way and another a different way? And when we think about this year, when we think about this moment and beyond, what personal values or intentions do you most want to bring into your holiday gathering this year? And sit with that for a second too. You might want to place your hand on your heart, right? It doesn't have to be, though it could be, super about a specific tradition, right? Like it doesn't have to mean big elf on the shelf energy or like every year we're going to do it like this and that's our tradition, right? Sometimes I know for many of us that maybe didn't have certain traditions, there is this desire to have them, but see what feels so authentic and not performative, right? Like what is actually something that you're like, I want to do this year by year by year and watch it grow over the years? Or like, why is it that I want this to be the thing? What's the deeper feeling or the deeper story that can come about as I create these traditions, as I create these deeper values around a gathering? What is it that I am looking to bring to it? What am I looking to take away from it? This year, something that I talked about with my family, we always do holidays at my house, which can be incredibly stressful for me because like, what? This is not the time of my life where I need to be making parties. Like I am raising a kid, I am working, and she tired and busy. Like no. So I was thinking about like, I was sharing with my family, like what I have to give. And I'm like, well, I have a beautiful environment to give and I have a big heart to give, but like everything else, y'all got to figure it out, make it come to life. But I was thinking about like this Christmas and I said, I want to bring like a lot of laughter to this Christmas, specifically for my life and my family. I want to bring some fun and some creativity to it. So I'm going to create a shared activity, and I've been thinking about doing it two ways. So I stay with like, this is going to sound insane, but I stay with like massive bags of crystals. Like from back in the day when I had my bliss bags with my company Karma Bliss, and I had a lot of crystal retail in stores at Nordstrom stores. I had like a lot of back stock that I kept. So I just have hella crystal, like 10-pound bags of like rose quartz, that like just to paint the picture, like filling my garage. And I also have like a lot of beads. So I was thinking about creating like a little DIY station with crystals and crystal beads and like creating intentions for the year, but like making it art. So we might be doing that. You might see that on the gram. And then I was also thinking about everyone in my family doing Christmas potluck style, but with recipes we find on TikTok. Even saying it, I feel exhausted. Like it sounds so creative and fun, but also I'm like, Jesus, let me survive this. So those are two things that I really have the intention about this year, is like, I want to introduce a little more creativity and fun and kind of utilize the beauty and the power of having those community dynamics, but like just adding a little more to it, like really invoking our creativity. So we'll see how I do with that. But that's how I'm kind of looking at that statement. It could also be around like, do you just want to bring like some lightness of being? Or are you the family member that this year needs to bring some depth into the equation? Where you're like, hey, we not walking on eggshells this year. Like I'm gonna look everybody in their eye and we gonna get to it. You got to decide, like, what does it represent for you this year? But what is your intention? What is your value? And what are you uniquely bringing to whatever environment you find yourself in this holiday season? So really, I think, powerful way to go into the new year. It's bringing some inertia. It's bringing some energy to the energetic potential of the moment. Anytime we get an opportunity to gather, there's so much energy present. And when there's more energy present, there's more opportunity present. So what are you creating? What are you doing? Okay, now I want to get into some juicy recommendations for self-soothing, specifically around your environment. So ways to bring some of that creativity and art and soothing into your experience of being alive this holiday season. So our external environment, it profoundly affects our internal state, right? Like there is a felt difference between standing under, for instance, like a fluorescent light and standing under like a warm amber light bulb, or just one of those like kind of warmer, creamier, more yellow light bulbs, right? Like it is a different feeling. The way your eyes take things in, the way your internal world feels, it all feels different based on what we're around. And so thinking of that this holiday season, start to think about what are some of the ways, if you are feeling reactive, you might like to soften or cozy up your environment to better help soothe your senses. I feel like something I was talking about at the beginning of this episode is I really was able to have an experience with that while I was in Miami working, because I was so activated and was having such sensory overload in a way that is not as common for me these days. And it really showed me like what my needs were in real time and what I had to change. And so even in my hotel room, I brought some amber night lights and I plugged them up everywhere. I always bring my meditation bell with me. I always bring sage with me everywhere. So I was able to support myself by recreating an atmosphere that felt a little more home-like for me. So if you're happen to be traveling this year, you might want to think about that. Or even if you are, in the same city, but you're just going to be somewhere for a prolonged amount of time, what is the toolkit you need to have with you? I always have to have essential oils with me. I love like a little sage roller or just a little bottle of sacred frankincense. I got to have it close. And anytime I need it, I take a little whiff, take a sniff, take a deep breath, and let it soothe me. I do the lighting that I talked to. I take longer, hotter showers. I do more gua sha. I will usually bring again, sage or a little candle or a chime or a sound, or I'll have a playlist close, something that I can just attune to privately. This can be something you do privately. This can be something that other people see. This can be something that you invite other people to. That is all your choice. But what are some things that you're like, if I bring this is kind of like my tool, my aid, and my security blanket? Is there something you can keep in your pocket that you can just kind of rub when you need it, or a bracelet you can just kind of grace your hands over, that gets you back in your body, that gets you back present? You may not have all the answers for that now, but it could be really nice to sit and think about it with a little more detail before you get ready to kind of be in environments that may feel more stressful. So notice, what is your individual ritual recipe that is necessary for you? And try to meet that need a little bit more deeply. Energetic clearing is really, really, really important. And I know we have all been seeing these massive bundles of sage all over the gram, right? And it's oh, I need to clear the space. I need to clear the energy. Yes. And in littler ways and easier ways, it can be done too, like pulling off one leaf from the sage and just holding it and lighting that one leaf. Just take what you need, right? No need to kind of overdo any of it that in a way that's not necessary. But clearing energy can be really, really helpful. Energetically, sensory wise, in terms of just creating a little space for yourself. So this can be done whether you're traveling, if in your hotel space or in the environment you're going into, if that's possible, but especially in your home. I'd recommend something I did last week, actually. One of my dear friends who has been a guest on this show twice, Dr. Sheila Marie Campbell. She has an incredible energy practice. She's a doctor of Chinese medicine. And we just did this big ritual at my house that I hadn't done in about 5 years, where she came in and we energetically cleansed each room in my house and each area, and kind of set a prayer and an intention in each room and in each space. And it is something that feels like such a gift to my life whenever I have the time and space to really do that. And it felt really useful for me going into this year. So think about for yourself at your home, especially if you are having people come over, but also just do this, it could feel really good. Sage the whole room, go room by room, in your house. Do the kitchen, do the entryway, do the living room, do your bedroom, do the bathroom, do the shower, do the closet. If you have other rooms in your home, do those other rooms, do the garage, do the attic, do the nook. I don't know what you got, what your house looks like. But get into each of those spaces, get into the crevices, get into the cracks, light the sage, open the windows, take some deep breaths, play some meditation music in the background, or maybe a beautiful chant, or, oh gosh, the incredible, incredible Women of Beautiful chorus, maybe put on one of their albums. Light a candle, try to keep just natural lighting in the house, not all the lights on, and cleanse the energy. And as you're walking through the house with your incense or your sage, say prayers for yourself, say prayers for your home. If it's challenging, some of the people that may be in your home or your space, or even if only your own feelings feel challenging or maybe just stagnating, speak to that and just say out loud, I am cleansing the energy of, and fill that in with your personal story and experience. I'm cleansing the energy. And then say, and I am making space for, and bring forward your heart's intention. We can't control everything, right? But we can create intentions that more gracefully guide the path forward. And so maybe it is, I'm cleansing the energy of discord. I'm cleansing the energy of argument. I'm cleansing the energy of dis-ease. I'm cleansing the energy of sickness. I'm cleansing the energy of discomfort and awkwardness from this space in service to. And then call in what you want, say, my intention is that this home is filled with love. My intention is that this home is filled with an authentic feeling of community. My intention is that this home is filled with dignity, integrity, respect for one another. My intention is that this home is filled with joy and excitement and fun. Whatever it is for you, I trust that you'll know what these things are, what needs to be released, what needs to be called in, but then really do it for yourself. And I want you to trust the process. And if there's any tears present as this happens, please let them fall. If there's laughter that is craving to come out, please let it come out. But just be present with your environment and yourself and your needs. And I recommend doing that like now, doing that before anything. And this can also be replicated literally at any time, whether it's Easter or Sunday football, or top of the year, just for you. But do that. And then once everyone leaves, right, maybe the next day, really take aside some space and do that again. Clear out the energy of what was there. You may be calling out specific things. Maybe there was an argument that broke out, or maybe there was more peace than you could have ever imagined. Whatever it is, be with whatever what is and call it out and say, I'm cleansing the energy of this and I'm calling in this, and thank yourself and thank your life and thank your home for what you created. And then remember to do the same for yourself. So one of the things that really helps me, especially when I'm around a lot of people or I'm just around a charged environment, could just be one other person, could just be me, to be honest. I like to do a similar process like that, but with my own body. So definitely before the end of the night, sage yourself, your own body, ring a chime, close your eyes, take some deep breaths, cleanse your energy, take a hot shower, and really imagine the day coming off of you and going down into the drain. If you can, I would recommend also giving yourself like a good scrub, also scrubbing your scalp. Even if you don't want to get your hair super wet or messed up, just try to get your fingertips in there maybe with a little frankincense on the tips. But if you do feel like washing your hair, give it a scrub. Get out whatever energy got pulled into that thing. It really helps you sink into rest a lot easier and take some of the energy of the day off. And I think when you do ritualistic practices like this, it starts to build your understanding of what is me and what is them, right? Like if I was feeling like this throughout the day, was I feeling that because of my feelings, or was I picking up on my environment and feeling everything that was kind of circulating around me? So when you do this practice, you really get to see, is it me that's that anxious and out of control? Or is it just my sense of being so raw and open in my environment? And you'll start to be able from there to tweak based on your needs, the specificity of your needs. You're going to start to discover that. And when you're able to get into the crevices with some of this kind of energetic protection and release and calling in, it really up-levels your practice and your ability to care for yourself, tend to yourself, and soothe yourself. So I hope that practice will be helpful. I hope some of the questions we asked will be helpful for you. And I hope this season is really so much better than you could have ever imagined. I really, really do. I think a lot of us and a lot of our families and a lot of our friends are ready to go deeper now. And so if you feel called, trust yourself to follow that path. If you've been listening to this podcast, you're ready. You're ready to take on a new, a different, a more impactful, a more purposeful and intentional role within your life and within the groups that you spend time with. So trust it. I hope all of this was helpful. I can't wait to talk to you again. Namaste.